so it's much closer.
Dude, they came out with a new game mode. I haven't even been playing like Trophy Road. It's like it's completely a whole new game. Yeah, I'm just so addicted to it. Such a
Does anybody else need a water?
No one was thinking you could know something. No, I'd already cruised this one, so
Maz is always on
Maz
the
is always no, like, you just everyone sees my two it's like before you get
my most, she was the favorite one.
yeah, he's fine too.
My really good with Fiona.
Do you want them? Yeah, we'll go. Okay, we'll go on this way. This way? Run it. So basically, on Monday, this will tell you that we run at the time and you kind of so you're like, oh, it's like, we're getting this thing where it's hot. So we're like, I have to do so long as but then you're like, really type of the rest, like, are you touched? She's like, no, I'm not coming. I'm going to try it. And I was like, how should I run? And she's like, no, like, we're going to have to. I don't know how she did that. Like, yeah.
Well, they missed the workout.
Well, also, like, someone else is going to make me smile. Like, I can't do it by myself.
How do you rate them? Like, how do you look at it's like 3 a.m. 18 miles. Like, I was thinking.
You like feel during your back? No, you run 3 miles.
I'm a hard worker myself.
They just stopped texting me about it, so I was like, I got it.
Does that start August 1st? That it changes?
It's still
And also, the race is like, it's not going to be at 7. No, like, I mean, like, the horse here is like, it's not going to be 7. You're going to have to run and keep.
But the last 2 days they did it was the same temperature as at 7 as it was at 10. So like there was no purpose in that. So like yeah. I see deer and I run from them. I was like, start sprinting. Yeah. You're like nature. Like, yeah. I'm like about 8, and that's like too early.
I have to get back to where I was.
Why'd you go to bed? Why'd you go to bed?
7.
Wow! Really risky. Yeah, it's gonna be a late bedtime. Yeah.
That's good?
It's okay, girls.
Looks like I'll pick
It's
you
fine.
up. I'm gonna go get claws from Target and a big one. Because like they have big claws.
I don't know if you want dinner or
You're not really going.
Yeah. I remember when she yeah, like I I know. No, I haven't heard it yet. No. I tell you later. Stop. No, don't look at me.
At least 6 months. At least take
Oh my God.
Sounds like January. Like how early is it? Now we're at January 10th. As the days go by. Yeah, I know. It depends on lots of love. Yeah, like they're That's all I'm gonna say.
Is Cash still here?
You need any more help?
He doesn't let us have it. He's like a Oh, you did?
All right. Can I grab your attention? Can everyone hear me? Yes. Perfect. Hi, everyone. My name is Tina Ree. I'm the race director and founder of the Women's 6K. This is our 5th annual year having it here in Canton, Ohio. This is a dream come true. Last year was our first annual elite panel. This is the 2nd year. It's grown astronomically. I'm so excited to have all of you. It's seriously just overwhelming seeing the growth of this race, but also this panel. And I'm here to introduce you 4 amazing women. They're not only fast, but they are just great people. And we're gonna hear from them tonight. Tonight will be a little bit of a podcast format. We're gonna be going 2 ladies at a time, but I'm gonna introduce all 4 panelists to you. Give them a round of applause. We're gonna have some pump up music. So first, starting off with my first elite panelists. It's going to be Fiona O'Keefe, ladies and gentlemen. That is big, big stuff. Yep, that's perfect. Our second panelist for the night, she is fast on the road. She is a marathoner. Give it up for Annie Frisbie! Our third panelist for the evening, she is fun, she is funky, Amanda Vestri!
No, he's not.
And our last but not least, she always keeps it real. Ladies and gentlemen, Stephanie Brew! Ladies and gentlemen, we ask that you keep it a little bit quiet so you can hear the panelists, and I'm going to pivot it over to Dr. Leo Kormanik.
Yeah, so I'm Leo Kormanik, run a podcast called Mind Body Marathon. So we're actually that's where this will end up. It'll air Monday, so we'll drop the episodes then. Like she said, we're doing 2 and 2, and so we're doing Fiona and Amy first, and then second we'll move over to them in about a half hour. So we're going to be speaking about this level. We're going to have the mics on because we're doing a production quality podcast here. So if you can hear, maybe move up a little bit. You will need to keep it down. And think of some Q&As, so at the end. So we're going to go about 25-ish minutes. We'll do a little bit of question and answer, and then we'll move on to the next two guests. Okay, sound like a plan?
Yep.
Awesome. Cool, let's get rolling. All right, mic's on.
Are we recorded?
It sounds way cooler for us than it does for everybody else. Okay, let me make sure they're all good. Okay, sound good? Awesome. All right, tell me what you have for breakfast.
Let's see, I had peanut butter toast and a banana.
Annie?
Oatmeal with banana and cinnamon.
Beautiful, classic. All right, so we sound good. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. So, you guys excited to be here?
Yeah,
Yeah?
definitely.
So fill me in on the 6K distance. Like, how does that feel for you guys? Like, is it being marathoners and kind of tapping up to that distance? So it's obviously unique and kind of throwback to college. Like, walk us through that.
Yeah, at this point a 6K feels pretty short. It's short and sweet, nice and spicy.
Yeah.
Same here, it feels like a step down in distance and way faster than my typical races, so I'm excited to experiment with the distance again.
Yeah. Now, are you guys working up towards a fall race? Or are you looking to do summer track? Like, where are you guys at right now with your race season?
Yeah, I'll probably do 1 or 2 more road races this summer and then going towards the fall marathon.
Yeah. Do you know which one yet?
TBD.
Okay.
That's awesome.
This is my last summer race, and then I'll take a little break or a little downtime, and then start back up at the beginning of September. And I will do a fall marathon, but also TBD.
Okay. So obviously a later one.
Are they surprises or are they just you don't know where you're at yet?
It's unofficial yet,
Okay.
but I have one in my mind. But
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
official.
You're not gonna say it, huh?
Not gonna say it.
You're not gonna give out like 3 or 4 of them or anything like that?
No.
Yeah.
So Fiona, I think everybody in this room, including myself, it was absolutely awesome watching you in the trials and seeing that experience. Walk us through that race and kind of when you knew, you were going to eventually take it and kind of make the statement here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it wasn't over until it was over.
That's true.
And I definitely didn't want to think that I had it before I was crossing that line. So I think I took a look back over my shoulder as I was rounding that final turn with 300 meters to go, and that's about when it all hit me at once. And yeah, it was so much emotion all at once. So that was definitely a really exciting moment. But yeah, coming into that race, we definitely talked about a little bit more of a conservative race plans, and
when did that get thrown out the window?
I mean, I would say like around halfway I was feeling really comfortable, but I guess I just had to trust myself once I went to the front. I knew that there was no point in just leading if I wasn't gonna do something. And yeah, I was feeling good, and if there's any day to take a risk, it's the trials.
Yeah.
So like, did you have a plan A and then a plan B, and then it was just like, see where we're at, or was it just kind of like, we're gonna scrap this whole plan, like right when you felt good, right when you knew that like let's go after it, was it one of those things?
I guess it was like, we kind of made plans, but they were open-ended, so things were very flexible. Yeah, and then, once I made some good, it was like, okay, I better commit to it.
Yeah, for sure.
Now.
So with it being your debut, was it, how far did you end up getting in training? In terms of distance?
Yeah, I did do the marathon distance.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Now, and you did Berlin at 23. What were some other great marathons that you've done?
Yeah, Berlin, I've done Chicago.
Because you were half American, right?
At Berlin,
Yeah,
there
nice.
wasn't a lot of Americans that year, but
cares?
I guess I'll claim it. And I've done Boston, New York, Chicago, and then the trials as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't really have a bad one. I've loved them all.
What was your favorite?
Honestly, I think New York. It
New
was
York,
my
really?
debut, and it went really well. So I just have it's sort of like rose-colored glasses, and
Yeah.
they treat you so well up there. It's just such a fun weekend. But everyone, like Boston's so fun too.
Yeah.
Chicago's so fun. Berlin was.
What makes Berlin so fast? Outside of the obvious.
Well, Berlin is just very fast because of the course, but then the race and all the organizers and everything of the race are very particular about the pacing. So there were several different pace groups you could choose from, and then there were a lot of pace cars that you could see what you
Yeah.
were on track to run, and they even had for like the first mile, or it was either first mile or first couple miles, they had every 200 meters marked out to get the pacing correct. And for a marathon,
insane.
it just sounds insane, yeah. I was not paying attention to my 200 meter splits. But,
Did they have mile marks on that course?
no,
Or were they all
kilometers,
Ks?
yeah.
Such a Berlin thing though, they're so like, anybody from like Germany is just so dialed in
Yeah,
on time,
100%.
we're gonna make sure that it's going like how the way they want to go.
It was very precise. And
Yeah,
focused,
yeah.
I ran Valencia in December, and I liked the Ks. And because I broke the race up into 5Ks, and it just felt, fun to kind of just snag away like 20 minutes at a time,
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's an adjustment for sure. But yeah, you just have to figure out a different way to sort of bring it
Yeah.
up.
So you said you're going to close out the season with this race.
Yep.
So walk us through kind of the season and how things went.
It went well. I raced Boston in the spring. It went really well. And after Boston, I took like a little mini break and then kind of jumped right back into racing. So I did the New York Mini 10K, and then I did the Grandma's Half Marathon in Duluth, Minnesota. And then this is my last summer race, so it's definitely like a shorter season, but I think just because coming out from Boston, I feel like my body's, still fit, but like it's also time to maybe have a little downtime.
That's such a unique build up to a 6K.
Yeah.
It's like you started with the furthest distance and then dropped it down.
It's the natural way to do it.
That's right.
It's gonna hurt. It's gonna be like dropped in acid.
I'm fully prepared for that, mentally.
That's awesome. But since you were doing the Boston training, so obviously you should be fine with the downhills. So
Yeah, hopefully.
yeah.
How does it feel to like be running a 6K again? How's that, like, is that approach like going back to college and like kind of getting into that mindset again? Or is it just like, let's just see what we can do after doing a build up of marathon training? Like, how does that feel for you? And yeah, for you, Fiona.
I feel like for me, it's, I kind of approach every distance similarly. Like my training doesn't change drastically for 6K up to the marathon. Like in the marathon, there's definitely a few more key workouts and long runs, but in general, I find like if I'm just generally fit, I can do okay at most distances.
Yeah.
So nothing's really changed. It's more just like keep that
Yeah.
fitness and.
That's cool.
That's what I like about this current running world we're in with exercise
Yeah.
phys and the way coaches are running things. It makes it easier for you as pro runners to just shoot from the hip and to kind of just select a race based on, you know, timing and that sort of stuff, that you don't have to like dedicate a whole season to just one particular event. It seems like everything's so threshold heavy now that it allows you to kind of pick and choose a little bit more. Would you say that's true for your training?
Totally, yeah,
Yeah.
I would say so. Yeah, I feel like I could go out and run a mile. I'm not gonna be, you know, El Courier, but I can go and have a decent race for myself. And I have just as much confidence in going into a marathon, so just having that well-rounded training. Yeah, I would totally second that. Yeah, we're a pretty strength-based program, I would say. I feel like you said, that's becoming kind of the norm these days, maybe. But yeah, I get to train with people who run anywhere from the 800 to the marathon, and that's really helpful. Just everyone kind of comes at it from a different angle, and you're always working out with someone with a different skill set than you. So I think having that in practice is always helpful, because you're rarely the best at, you can't be the best at everything, and you're rarely the best one on that day. So.
I would imagine, kind of getting inside your guys' heads a little bit, I would imagine that would help mitigate against burnout, right? Just because you're hitting a lot of different systems during training, but also like kind of just being able to be strength-based and just being generally strong kind of year-round. I think that kind of will help against burnout a little bit as well.
Yeah, totally, and I think being able to have races like this along the way that are like fun and exciting, but you know, for us, like those A days are the marathons, and the date of the marathon will never move. So being able to have opportunities to just compete along the way helps keep it fun and fresh.
So any other races lined up for you, Fiona?
Next up is probably Beach to Beacon.
Okay.
10K.
Nice. Have you done that one before?
Yeah, back in 2023.
Yeah. And you've done this one before too, right?
Yeah, this was actually my first ever road race as a pro.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's super solid.
Yeah.
So great memories for you.
Yeah.
Is this your first time back since then?
Yeah, so it's been 4 years, which makes me feel really old.
That's awesome. Okay, so
yeah, I got something. So like, what are your guys', so because burnout is minimized due to, you know, more threshold type training where you can kind of move amongst like 800 to 10K to marathon training, half marathon, what does recovery look outside of that? Like, what else do you guys do for like recovery and stuff? Because obviously you can come back and do workouts at a high level because you're not really cresting over that edge, but like, what does recovery look like on a day-to-day basis? Or
For me, I think sleep is probably the biggest thing, so making sure I'm consistent with what time I wake up and go to bed, and just getting enough hours too. But other things like icing, Normatec, getting enough nutrition, you know, going to see my chiropractor or massage therapist when I can, and
there's that
Score.
also,
we didn't pay her to say that.
No, and strength training too,
Nice.
like preventing injuries and all that. So I feel like it's all those little things that help, you know, keep my body right.
Annie, do you train year round in Minnesota?
I do most.
Nice.
Well, this last winter I went to Raleigh actually, and then the winter before I went to Albuquerque. Just for like shorter training stints. I'm based in Minneapolis, and the winters are definitely challenging, so it's nice to get away even for a month. Just to get a little bit of vitamin D. So the last few years I've been doing that.
I've always been intrigued by Albuquerque. Like, why? Because I know the Brits always did it. Like, that's always where Paula went, and it's like, why Albuquerque? Like, when you have like Flagstaff and like Mammoth and some great other locations, I'm just curious.
We chose it because it has like a little bit of everything. Like, you can either go to the foothills and it's around 7,000 feet, or you could go down by the river, and I think it was either 6 or maybe even under 6.
I think it's closer to 5, yeah.
Yeah, so you notice a huge difference, like depending on where you were training. It's also really affordable there, and like compared to Flagstaff or Mammoth, I think they get less snow. Like, we only had a couple snowfalls, but it would melt by the afternoon. So, you know, we're coming from Minneapolis, which So it's like, if we're gonna just be running on the treadmills anyway, why would we go anywhere? So that was our thought process.
Do you have access to indoor tracks when you're in Minneapolis?
Yeah, we
Would you
use
usually-
the University of Minnesota's indoor track.
That's awesome.
And that's super helpful for getting fit. And then most easy runs and long runs, we're still able to get outside. It definitely takes you like a couple weeks to get your snow legs back.
Yeah.
But
You downplayed the winter in Minneapolis. I've been out to Minneapolis in February, and it's
insane.
brutal.
well, February's the worst month, so you went at the wrong time. But yeah, it's definitely character building. Like I
That's
Yeah.
a
feel
good way of
like
putting
my
it.
That's a great way of putting that, Phil,
I've become like more of a baby, I would say, the older I get. So
So how do you deal with the heat then? Just load up on the sauna work?
I
and-
love the heat. Oh yeah, sauna in the winter. And then yeah, I feel like just over the years I've been able to adapt a little bit better, or quicker maybe. So yeah, Minneapolis does get very humid. So once spring does roll around and summer rolls around, it's no problem. But in the winter, sauna and hot tub or whatever you do, yeah.
So Fiona, what about you with recovery measures? What are some of your go-tos?
Yeah, I would definitely second just like the basics, sleep, nutrition, body work, I'd say are like top 3 for me. But then also like on the mental side of it, I feel like it's really important for me. Some people can like operate more in the space of like being super like checked in all the time, but I need to have times in my day or at least like
That's
once a
great.
week where I can just like check out and totally focus on something else or just
Like some other hobby kind of thing?
yeah, or just like get out in nature in a way that's not related to sport.
I think that's so important.
How often do you guys get body work?
I try to get a massage about once a week if I can,
Beautiful.
and then chiro kind of as needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll usually do massage like once a month. I'll do chiro every other week, and then I do acupuncture probably the most often.
Oh,
like
sweet.
Once a week.
Yeah, and I asked that because like, you know, having done tours with USATF, and it's hilarious when you go, because distance runners almost never get treatment. Like it's always the sprinters, it's always the jumpers, and they're getting like treated like 2 or 3 times a day, and you know, pretty much every single day that you're on tour with them. And it's like the distance runners are so blue collar that they just like deal with it more so. And I always found that intriguing, because if you have access to it, you should definitely utilize it. So I think that's awesome that you guys have that at that frequency.
For me, it's more like I got injured at like it comes from like a need.
Yeah.
So
That's what I mean, like you're just gonna fight through things more, that injuries just sneak up on you a little bit more.
totally, yeah. Like I feel like being injured makes you smarter and like, oh, what do I need to do next time to not get injured?
Like sprinters will literally back out of races if their glute's not firing enough. Like they'll literally do that. They can feel it when they're doing, and I get it, because their world is so particular. But, you know, it's such a contrast to what
It's
marathoners
different. It's so
and
different.
distance runners have to deal with.
Yeah, totally. We could probably learn a little bit from this.
Yeah, that's why I bring it up, because I feel like it's, you know, I think it's one of those hidden gems, because, you know, even if we look at other sports like, you know, Messi or, you know, Tom Brady, like they were getting consistent treatment, or Malvern with LeBron, it's like they always get, you know, treatment every day, and it's like, you know, to stay healthy longer in your career, I mean, it's a question I'm definitely gonna ask you, it's like, you know, what's the ticket to that? So, and I think it's treatment and staying ahead of the curve, being preventative, you know?
Totally.
Cool. So, what shoes are you gonna wear, Amy?
I'm wearing the Fast R2s.
Yeah?
Mhm.
How do you like them?
I love them. They're or the Fast R3s. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah,
Did
I
you
love
have those?
them. Yeah, they're super light, very bouncy. I feel like they work with any distance, which is rare for a racing shoe. I feel like sometimes it's like, okay, this one's for the marathon, this one's for the mile, but this one I feel like I could race any distance in. So, and yeah, I've had great races in them and great workouts in them.
That's awesome. What about you?
I'm sticking with the Deviate Elite 3s. So that's the other super shoe I guess that Puma makes. So they're probably like slightly less aggressive than the Fast R3. So yeah, I just like that you can, I guess, use them for anything, but yeah, they're both great shoes.
So, in this world of super shoes and whatnot, do you guys train in them? What are your typical trainers?
Typical trainer, I wear the Puma Forever runs. It's more of a cushy shoe. And they feel pretty slow on easy runs, but I like that feeling because it's a pretty high contrast when I do
Yeah.
jump into my workout or racing shoes. And then, yeah, for workouts and races, I'll typically wear the Fast R3s, but I will also wear the Deviate Elite 3s depending on the day.
Awesome. So if you had to give any, comment to, inspire a young lady looking up to you guys, because there's a lot of them for sure, what would you guys say? This is a great event that Tina has put together in terms of inspiring women runners and empowering them, and I think we couldn't support it more. I have a little daughter, 3.5, that's going to run the Little Ladies Loop, and I couldn't be more proud of that. And they have a little bib, it's like this big. You guys should definitely watch that Little Ladies Loop, it's awesome. But what would you guys say as some inspirational words?
I know it might sound silly, but honestly, just don't forget to have fun. Don't forget why you fell in love with the sport in the first place, and
That's a good one.
try to hang on to that.
I'm sure after all the success after the marathon of the trials, that probably was something you probably really had to deal with, and just the pressure of heading into Paris, and just that next level that you just instantly got thrust into.
Yeah, for sure. A lot changed overnight with that, and I think that in hindsight, there's a lot that I could have handled better.
Yeah.
But in a way, I think I kind of had to go through that experience to learn some of that.
When I first started doing tours with USATF in 15, they had 2 sports, I typically, 1 or 2 on tours with them, and now there's 5, 6. So they definitely have leaned quite a bit into that, and I think that's really awesome.
And I think it's so important too, like to kind of circle back to what you said, and I try to use this in my own life too, of finding something outside of running where you can disconnect even just for a little bit and not have to be a runner. And I think that's so important. And I found just even like through my own life and my own, being a massage therapist and owning my own business, like I need that time to disconnect and not be a massage therapist and just be Zach. And I think that's like so important to, keep the joy of running, to keep the joy of this sport, because it's a great sport. It's
Success at any level in any
Yeah.
in any profession requires that tap out period.
Yeah,
So.
you need it. It's so important to be able to cycle back and train and compete and
Yeah.
continue to do it.
Yeah, definitely, because if you're only like taking away from those moments where you're getting a lot of positive external feedback, then there's gonna be a time when things don't go your way,
Running's
and
brutal.
you don't have something to fall back on.
Yeah,
It's
running's
pretty
brutal.
rough, yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
I would say, it's very cliche, but enjoy the process.
Yeah.
I think, that's one of my favorite parts of the sport is, the process is what makes me love it so much, and it makes the marathon especially so rewarding or heartbreaking, or any distance, but especially the marathon. So much work goes into every race, and enjoying like the little moments. I feel like having gratitude in those little moments really makes the final performance all worth it, no matter how it goes.
I remember, I think it was the 2000 Olympic trials, Maurice Green won, I think it was the one where they did the fire extinguisher on his feet. And I remember right before the race, whether it was earlier that day or even the day before, he was being interviewed and he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna win the race." And they were like, "Well, how can you be so sure?" He goes, "Because nobody loves the process more than me." And at the time I was a senior in high school, and I was like, that's amazing. Like that was very impactful for me. And I really took that to heart through my college career and after college running. So that's very why I like that. So we're gonna kind of pass along any questions to the crowd. We're kind of at that 25-minute mark for the start of this. So does anybody have any questions for our ladies up here? For the Fiona and Annie? Yep.
Yeah, I think, thinking about a race like the women's 6K in the context of some of these bigger marathon fall goals, how do you prepare to go into a shorter, faster race like this in the context of these like heavier, longer, slower training blocks?
Yeah, I guess I just try to keep it simple. I'm thinking back to like college cross, everything was a 6K, and there's honestly not a lot of thought sometimes that goes into a cross country race. You just get out there and kind of send it. So
Kind of miss it, right?
Yeah.
Same here, trying to like avoid the knowing how painful it's gonna be, just the faster pace. And I definitely remember that feeling from when I did it in 2022, like from from the gun, the first mile was way faster than any other longer distance races that I was used to, and just kind of, you know, rolling with it, not letting that shake me, or, you know, that's not my typical like focus in training, but just kind of going with how your body feels on the day, and not getting in your head, I guess, about it.
Yeah, not trying to panic early in the race and just kind of settle in.
Settle in, yes.
Any other questions? Come on, somebody else has got to have something. Yep, over here.
What's your go-to meal before race day, like night before?
Night before, I guess, like, I feel like I'm fairly flexible. I'll do like chicken and rice or pasta, kind of depends on what's available. But yeah, I'm not usually like too pressed about what I have the night before, unless it's before a marathon, then I'm a little more careful.
Same here, I just try to not do anything super spicy, I guess. 2 days before I go crazy, but the night before it's pretty simple, like, yeah, rice, pasta, some sort of protein, simple.
All right, anybody else? Yep, over here.
Do you have any favorite tools that you'd recommend for like self-massage?
Oh, good question.
Have you seen like those little gua sha tools that people sometimes use on their face? I've actually found those to be great for like lower leg stuff. If you want. Yeah.
And they're cheap, they're like $5-10 on Amazon. Yeah, that kind of was the original scraping tool. They were old chess pieces they would use in stones. That's how they started. Pretty cool. Good question though. What about you?
I actually do that same with the gua sha,
Yeah.
and then just like a classic tennis ball for like rolling out my feet, or just a regular foam roller too for the rest of.
I mean, not anything crazy that's super expensive that people, you know, advertise on, you know, Instagram. It's just simple tennis ball and a $5 tool. I love it.
Yeah, if you have a lacrosse team in your area, and it's very much useful too for the really tight spots.
Awesome. And we'll do kind of one final question before we move on to the next guest. Who's got that final question? Yep, way in the back.
What do you guys do in your free time?
I guess that's a good question.
My free time, I spend so much time with my dogs.
Oh man, those dogs are awesome.
Yeah, I love going on walks with them. I go through phases of being into reading, so sometimes reading or puzzles, or sometimes random side projects. I also coach some athletes, so doing that. It's every day is different.
What's the largest puzzle you've done?
I haven't done past like 2,500, I want to say.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have enough space to make a bigger one. That's my bad.
How long does it take you to do the 2,500?
I don't do it for speed. I do it for. So it'll take like a month.
Okay.
I'm really doing
Just chip away at it.
Yeah, it's like let me do a couple pieces here and there.
Sucks you in. Puzzles are awesome.
Yeah, I definitely go through phases with the reading too, depending on how academic I'm feeling.
You did go to Stanford.
That's true. Hardest part's getting in. But yeah, I'm taking some online classes right now, and then I do a little bit of advocacy work for an environmental group called.
Yeah, I was reading that. Yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, so they mainly work with the winter sports athletes actually, kind of just raising awareness about, it's really easy to see there, you know, the effects of climate on snowpack and everything, but they have also worked with more trail runners and are looking to expand more into working with the running community as a whole, just to kind of like use the fact that so many of us love to get outside as a kind of a means of raising awareness about the need to protect what we love so much.
I love that.
What's the name of it?
Protect our winners.
I know I just read a New York Times article that the shipping channels are changing pretty much monthly because of the amount of ice melting and all that. So pretty crazy stuff. All right, so I think that's a wrap on the first part of the episode. You guys have any final thoughts or points you want to make? Well, good luck in the race, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have fun. Okay, everybody doing good out here? Does that sound okay? All right, awesome.
She doesn't like, she'll do like a thousand, or no, she'll do like.
Oh, God.
What do you think? Bada bing, bada boom. I know, right?
Can you hear everybody?
Was it up? Okay. you're
Starts
gonna
rapping. Start rapping. Start like rapping. Huh? Rapping.
Is that your thing?
Sorry, this is your spot.
It sounds good on my end, but for them.
My name is Amanda. I know, I'm
No, you gotta ask a question this time.
Yeah, so you should ask these questions today.
Okay. All right. I know, it is interesting how this.
I feel like
Really?
Yeah.
it sounds like we're
Because it's studio quality, so it's very interesting.
It's weird.
We can hear you guys, but we're trying to talk a little bit louder.
That's kind of weird. Yeah.
Yeah. This is an experiment, but I think we're doing a good job at it. All right, so I think we're ready to start round two. So on the episode now we have Amanda and Steph, and so yeah, how do you get? So you were here last year. You were third, right?
Second.
Second. Oh, I'm sorry. Should have done some intel.
Last year too? Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So welcome back.
Thank you.
Next year.
Yeah. Good to be here.
Walk us through the 6K and kind of the distance and what it means to you guys and just the uniqueness of it.
Yeah, I don't know. 6K is a really fun event because you don't really run it that often as a pro. I'm so used to doing like 5Ks and things like that. So sometimes my favorite part of like an off distance event is you're not so worried about the time. You're just more like focused on the race versus if I was running in a 5K, I feel like I'd be very, very focused on like PRing in the 5. And when you're on the track, that's all you're thinking about is the PRs and the times. So in a race like this, it's really fun to just like zone out and compete with the other ladies around you.
And you just like check out and just go for it, just like not even just hammer
Pretty
from the gun.
much. That's usually my MO in races. I just kind of check
You're
out.
like kind of all in no matter what, aren't
Just
you?
all in. My coach hates it. He's like, you need to learn how to race. And I'm like, oh, I
It's
mean,
working so far.
I mean, I guess.
It's that Aaron Judge swinging for the fences.
Exactly.
Yeah, what about you, Steph?
Similar, yeah, I think, we had a question earlier about like, how do you look at a shorter race in like longer interval training, or when you're doing like half marathon and marathon training. I think what's so nice is you can't really compare it because you don't do the 6K distance a lot. The only thing you know is you go through the 5K at a certain time, so you're gonna know that. But yeah, I think it's just really good to break up sort of, we're so married to measurements and times and GPS and all the results that we have, and this is just one opportunity to be like, I don't really care what that time is, like I'm just gonna compete with myself the whole time.
I know my OPR came after the season I ran my first marathon, and it was because I just didn't care. I just got on the track and just hammered, and just that freedom just really let loose that energy and just getting after it. So.
And it's also interesting too, Steph, where you were talking about like Garmin watches and like, you know, pacing, and because you've been a runner for how long?
Long time.
So I was actually thinking about this morning, and I wanted to ask you this, like, how has it been for you to transition to this like newer style of like running? Because I consider myself like an old school, like, you know, the Garmin watch that we have is like that brick where that runner guy would come run across the screen when it was loading up, and like, who cares, you know? But like, how have you been able to transition to this like threshold, data-driven world where before it was just like, you know, you had this plan in your head, your coach, you believed in your coach, and whether he was right or not, or she was right or not, it was just like kind of, I mean, it was just different. And I'm curious how you were able to transition to this like new style of running.
I mean, if we can go way back, like I had a Timex watch.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a GPS watch. I'm sure some people in the audience might have had Timex. But I would say it's been a couple. It's been technology with watches, it's been training, and then the shoe era. That's been huge, I think, for me to be able to say, half of my career existed pre-super shoes, and then the other half of my career existed in super shoes.
Did you push back at first?
I did. I was
yeah.
a big pushbacker. I remember when like Kara and Des kind of in the beginning, because I think what happened was it was convoluted. When super shoes were coming out, only one company, who I won't name, yeah, they basically were the only ones that had super shoes. So then all the other shoe companies were sort of in like a shoe war, and they were trying to catch up. And so for a very long time, all the like principles that we thought were important in training, like we tried to run more mileage, we tried to like go so hard on strength training. We had these big, huge workouts. So we were like, we're gonna like outrun people, we're gonna be smart in marathons, we're not gonna go out too hard, and we're not gonna blow up. And that all changed. And now people can go out over their heads and you blow up a little less. So at first it was difficult to get used to, but I think it's also cool to be like, wow, I've been able to experience like both worlds. And I think you just have to navigate. It's like anything, the technology is helping our sport in a lot of ways. There are parts I agree that I think are hurting it a little bit, and I hope that we have like smart coaches who are looking over the youth and making sure they're not overdoing it too much. But yeah, I think if you just lean into the change and realize like if you can evolve along with it, you can still have a really good career.
And you were always in the data-driven era. So I wanted to ask you, walk me through, so you debuted in a 108 half. Walk me through that race, because that is an insane debut.
Yeah, that race that was the Orlando half marathon, for those of you that don't know. Yeah, I got injured in the build up to my Valencia half build, which was supposed to happen in October. And the injury wasn't one that like, really took you out for many months. So it was like a few weeks, little tweak in my piriformis. So I really wanted to run a half. And I asked my coach, like, if I was fit and healthy, if I could debut at the Orlando one, because it was a really low-key half, and I think at the time for me, that low-pressure environment was more what I was looking for. And honestly, I thought if I ran like under 70, I was going to be over the moon about it. So I just kind of went out, again, blindly, not knowing really what I was capable of, and yeah, when I saw 68, I was like, okay, I think I could be a good half marathoner. So, yeah, I've always known I wanted to move up to the marathon distance. So I really took a crack at the half this past year. Did 3 halves, did Houston, and then did the World Half qualifiers in Atlanta. So, yeah, the half was kind of my thing for the last half a year or so.
So where does this race sit in your plans for the summer and fall?
Yeah, so after this race, I'll be doing the 5K and 10K at the Track USA meet in Eugene. Try to make a team there, and if I don't, then I'm going to shut down the season after that and build up for a fall marathon. So, yeah.
Which one do you know? Did you determine as well?
It's TBD.
We basically can't tell you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Unfortunately, I think I would get into trouble.
It won't, you won't.
I'll tell you after.
And Steph, what about you? Where does this race sit in your kind of race schedule?
Yeah, this is, I would say like similar to a lot of the women. For me, I ran Boston Marathon in April, and then I'm coming back from like having my 3rd baby, and I just realized this was like a unique summer to be like, I need to try to get fast again, and I'm doing air quotes, fast again, just because one, like as you get older, that's what goes away first is your speed, and I have so much endurance and so much like aerobic strength. We need to keep touching things that I would say are very uncomfortable, and so the 6K just fit into very uncomfortable in a race definition, and then trying to do 2 more 10Ks in August before a fall marathon.
I remember talking to Bernard Lagat at the 2020 trials for the marathon, and I was like, what does your training look like now relative to when you were miles? And he's like, I'm actually running less miles but harder. And he's like, because I'm older and I need to exactly touch upon multiple different zones versus when I was younger, I could do a little bit more strength stuff, and then when I get kind of later into the season, kind of hone in on the mile. And I thought that was really interesting. He's like, I actually work out the same number of hours in a week, but I run less. which I found to be very fascinating. Because he was like doing more ancillary work, more plyometrics and that kind of stuff. So it's like, I've always kind of kept that in the back of my mind as an aging athlete, like making sure that you can touch upon the neuronal side of it, multiple different muscle groups, multiple different physiology zones, but also, being agile as an athlete, kind of becoming a little bit more of an athlete. Because you kind of get stuck in your ways,
You do, and I think, like, probably where Bernard was at in life too, like, you don't realize the things that you're doing outside of running are probably taking more of your time and more, more energy demands, and so you're like, hey, if I only have this amount of time to devote to training versus when you were 25, it probably makes sense to be like more quality versus quantity.
When I first opened my chiropractic clinic in 2012, we opened up with picky bars.
Thank you.
We did.
Yeah, we did, right?
I remember you having those when I started.
Yeah, and so, are you doing as much stuff like that now that you have kids, or are you just kind of like kids and running? Is that what your life is?
Yeah, I mean, you said
As it
that.
should
And
be.
you said that as if like they don't take much time. Yeah,
Yeah, I got 5.
Exactly,
so.
you get it. Yeah, I mean, what he's referring to as Picky Bars is an energy bar company I started over a decade ago, and sort of dream come true. My co-founders and I, someone bought it from us a few years ago. So dream come true meaning like we weren't paid while we were building it, and then all of a sudden one day, someone bought it. But I think what I am trying to do, and I think what Picky Bars sort of mirrored for me was as an athlete, when I was injured early in my career, and Lauren Fleshman, she was my co-founder, she was too, and we were both on a stationary bike in a tiny apartment complex in Eugene, Oregon, and she had just run the Olympic trials. She was 4th and she broke her foot, and we were like, wow, like what else is there, or what's next? What happens if you're running your whole career and then you get a big injury and you have nothing else to fall back on? And so when we were very young, I was 27, I said, can we do something coinciding with our professional running career where we actually have something that we're devoting our time and energy into? That way, one, when we do get injured, you're not completely bored and depressed and think you have nothing else going on. And then also, like, could we build other skills as people as we're navigating our 20s and 30s, and so you don't end your professional running career at 36 and then say, well, now what? Now I have to get an entry-level job, making $28,000 a year or whatever. So yeah, I think that, and our hope is that other athletes along the way were like, hey, like, what's our passion? We could do something too. And I think you're seeing
it kind of did.
I think it did too.
I mean, Simmons came with the run gum shortly after, and I know like Loiselle was out kind of doing a lot of cool stuff at the time, and everybody was kind of coming up with that. I mean, I think there were some cool products that came out of that movement. And I think it's awesome that you did that. So congrats.
Well, and I think it's inspiring too, because I know like during COVID, like there was a lot of athletes that were dabbling into like their own personal interests and kind of making their own little avenue of like creativity or like get products out there, whatever it might be. And I thought, yeah, I mean, like what you did is paving the way for that.
I mean, I think you're seeing just athletes realize like they can be their own brand, and they can figure out, and it doesn't have to look the same, but whether that's having your own coaching business or like starting your own, online training, or some people do training journals, or whatever it is.
I mean, you definitely read the tea leaves on that one, because that's like the world we're in, multiple sports, NIL and all that, so it's like, that's pretty cool that you were like thinking ahead like that.
Yeah.
So Amanda, when you were at Syracuse, at what point did you realize you wanted to go pro, or that you could go pro?
I wanted to go pro probably since I was in like middle school. So, yeah, since I was a little
That's
kid.
a dream come true.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I like to say I went to school for running. So, yeah, I went to Iowa State for a couple of years, and yeah, I majored in exercise science. I almost forgot for a second. But yeah, and then I transferred to Syracuse, and COVID. So I had COVID and then an injury. So I had 4 years at Syracuse, so 6 years total in college, and yeah, just tried to work myself up in a healthy way. And luckily for me, the 3 coaches that I had in college were all very long-term oriented for my career. They knew I wanted to pursue it post-college, so I felt like they trained me really appropriately, and I didn't, I wasn't doing double threshold in college. I wasn't doing, I was.
Are you kidding me?
No, I was low mileage. I mean, I was, pretty undertrained, I would say, for the most part. So I'm so thankful for that too, though, because now I'm 25 and I feel like I'm just now coming into the beginning of my career. So I'm very grateful for that. And you know, now there's so many different avenues that we can use to try and get me better before going to those, you know, next steps that everyone tries to jump to right away.
Yeah.
So that's my approach, is the long-term approach.
Yeah. Now, where do you train mostly?
Blowing Rock, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of elevation there. It's like 3,600, 3,700 feet. So very moderate, but yeah, I think, you know, elevation, altitude training is another avenue you can go down at some point. But yeah, we're just taking our time with all that. Just trying to stack the bricks right now and control the, you know, things like volume and intensity first. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And Steph, how has it been with, you know, having multiple kids and coming back from that, and some of the body changes and some of the time demands, and maybe not able to pay attention as much to recovery and that sort of thing? Like, you know, how have you navigated that hard process?
Yeah, you know,
just another running mom kind of thing.
Sure. I get asked that question a lot, and I'm always like pretty real with people, because someone will say like, "Oh my gosh, you're so inspiring," and I'm like, just hold on a second. Like, it has been my job for the last 15 years to run, and so there's a huge difference of running is my job and I'm paid to do it, and I also have children, so meaning I like have the means to get childcare. I have the financial support to get a massage once a week, to get chiropractor care. Like after I had my children, I was able to have a massage therapist like come to my house when I was a couple weeks postpartum. So that is a huge privilege. So I usually tell moms, like, you guys are doing way better than you think. And so don't give me too many kudos, because I have been able to do it as my job. And yeah, I really think that it's just been something where I got to a point in my career where I had run a couple Olympic trials, and I was like, okay, like if I make or don't make this Olympic team, is that gonna define me? And I sort of just realized it wasn't, and that's when I said, well, there's no good time to stop your career to have kids, so I'm just gonna go for it. And so I had my first kid when I was 30, my son. And of course, we did kind of plan it around like Olympic years, and so that was 2.5 years before the next Olympic trials. And then when I was 6 months postpartum, when you were kind of like, okay, like I'm getting my body back, I feel good, I got pregnant again. And I didn't really know that Mother Nature let that happen, but she does. So just word of caution, be careful out there. 15 months apart. Yeah, so it's kind of when I look back, like, I feel bad saying this, I love my boys, but like it was actually a really dark time for me, because I had just gone through like a pretty traumatic birth, and he was a really big baby, he was 9 pounds, he had a really huge head, and so I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't know how I'm gonna do this again. And I look back and I think about my husband Ben, and one of my greatest memories is the 2016 Olympic track trials. He and I, my husband and I, were both on the start line. We had qualified and we made the 10,000, and we had a 9-month-old and a 26-month-old. And we were like, whoa. So anything I do right now, I'm like, Ben, we were like superheroes. I didn't do very well. I think I was 22nd in that race, like almost dead last. But relative to, yes, people would say, oh my gosh, you made the Olympic trials. But then I think that perspective just allowed me to say, hey, this is your timeline. Like, you weren't supposed to be ready to make that Olympic team. And then, whatever that was, 4 years later when the Atlanta Olympic trials came around, that was sort of my shot, and my boys were older. I had gotten my body strong again. I hadn't been injured, so I stayed healthy for the 7 years that, since they were born, and I got really close, and I missed the Olympic team by 19 seconds. But kind of like what Annie said, I enjoyed the crap out of the process, and I wouldn't change anything.
So like, what advice would you have for women that are postpartum?
I would just say that no two women's journeys are the same, and so give yourself a pat on the back for what you're doing, and try not to fall into the comparison trap, because that is the thief of joy. And you know, like, I have really good friends in the running world, like Rachel Smith, you know, she just had her baby. she bounces back super quickly, and she's almost like she's made to have babies and then come back to running. My body was not, and my abs separated, and you know, I got congratulated on being pregnant 3 months postpartum, because my body still looked pregnant. I was at the supermarket, and I was like, thanks, my baby's in the cart over here. You know, but I didn't take any offense to that, because I was just like, you know what, that's my body, and I think you just have to own your journey, and yeah, realize you're doing the best you can.
Yeah. I like that.
In your story career, what would you say was your most memorable race?
It was probably two. One was the Olympic trials in Atlanta, and that wasn't necessarily because like I miss the Olympic team, but the training cycle leading up to that was myself and my two teammates, Kellen Taylor and Alfie Tillamook, and we just had the most like I'm gonna cry, like memorable 3 to 4 months build up where we were just at each other every day at practice, like kicking each other's butts and realizing like we all wanted to beat each other because we all wanted to make the Olympic team. But the way we looked at training was we're gonna make each other better, and we knew that there were so many women across the country training for this one goal, and we just had different things happen. Like Kellen was fostering 2 children at the time, and halfway through the training cycle, Child Services had to come to her house and take the 2 children away one morning. Like they showed up at her door and basically put the kids in a cab, and this was before Kellen drove down to do 15 by a mile. And she got through the workout, and then I remember we finished, and Kellen is a really strong, tough person, and we started our cool down, and she just absolutely broke down, and she lost it, and then the 3 of us like hugged in the middle of the road, and we were like, gosh, like this is way more than running. And so the bond I think that we had, so that made Alfine winning the trials super special, because we felt like Kellen and I were part of that.
It's beautiful.
And then thank you. And then my second was probably Peachtree in 2018. That race was the US 10K championships, and Alfine was also in that race, and Sarah Hall and Emma Bates. And I had never won a national title, and I was 30, I don't know how it was, 35. And usually in the sport, if you don't do something by a certain age, people don't think that you're gonna do it, you know? It's just, that's how it goes. And just something in that happened in that race where my mindset was, the race is not over until it's over, similar to what Fiona said. And it came down to 800 meters to go. Alfine had put a gap on me, and I slowly started to pull her in, and then I come up side by side with her, and I just remember under her breath, she said, "Go girl." She had nothing left, but she was my teammate, and she realized like she had been in practice with me, and she just was like, I think this is where stepping stone pull away. And I remember just sprinting down that finish line. It was probably like the last minute, and it was almost like a montage of my whole career was flashing before me, and I was like, oh, it is all worth it. Like all the disappointments or the failures or the second places that you think are always coming, the win is coming. So yeah, you just gotta like keep at it.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
That's a hard race too.
It is a hard
Peachtree
race.
is very hard. What about you? What's a race that stands out in your mind? I know we talked about that great half of yours, but anything else jump out?
You know, the New York Mini last year, that 10K road race, I was the first American in that race, and I think that's the first time that people started really paying attention to me, which, you know, kind of like Fiona said, if your whole career and your, you know, ambition stems from external validation, it's not going to take you very far. And I learned that pretty quickly, but it was a stepping stone for me to sign my first pro contract with Brooks. So that was a really, really important race. And after that race, I don't think I've ever not bet on myself going into a race from that. It gave me a lot of confidence that, you know, like Steph said, anytime you're on the starting line, the race is not over. Just because someone's got a better PR than you, chances are that PR came together for them on the perfect day. So I just kind of learned from that race to bet on myself and not count myself out. So that was a special one.
Just that alley fighter mindset. I love it. Just
I got a question for you, Amanda.
Yeah.
kind of based off of that, because what I get from you is a very lax person. Like, you seem very relaxed, you seem very calm. I know.
I don't know you're kidding.
I'm not. Because here's the reason. I met her like an hour ago.
She's like a.
Last year, yeah.
She's like a good front relax.
So here's my thing. So here's my thing, because.
It's my PR face.
Yeah.
So, because you talk about how, like, you always wanted to be a pro runner, like that was your thing, and then you then kind of decided into like, I'm taking this process, and I know I have the double thresholds, I know I have the altitude, but you didn't jump to there, and you seem like you are someone who like has that like relaxed
Oh, you're
confidence.
playing the long hand is what you're saying.
Yeah, and it's like, where does that come from? Because most runners, in my opinion, we're very stubborn and we're very like neurotic in our own way, and we want to just go to that next big thing, but you're like someone who's very patient. Like, where does that come from? Like, where did that stem
Yeah, that
from?
is an interesting mindset, because most runners will see like, yeah, we gotta do this next thing, and just everybody doing it, I gotta do it too.
I think I try to max out what the current stage of training I don't even know if that makes sense. I'm trying to maximize what I have in front of me at the moment. So like I said, my coaches are probably the driving force of that. I've had coaches throughout my entire career that have really had to rein me in. And I think like learning from my experience with injuries and things like that, I just try to focus on what I can control. So, you know, on the day, if we're doing like a lot of volume, it's like, all right, how much volume can I do today and still feel good at the end of it? And yeah, I think it's pretty easy to just say like, let's do the big shiny thing, let's do the double threshold twice a week. But I think, number one, I think that you can burn out pretty quickly. And also like, I think it matters on what stage of your career that you're in, and being that I'm in the very early stages, there's so much time to uncover and, you know, keep digging through those bigger things that will help you get better when, you know, when the seconds really matter. So I think right now it's just building a really good foundation and then uncovering what else is there to be gained from altitude training, from the double threshold training, from the super high mileage, or from really intense training. And yeah, right now I think my biggest goal is to just stay healthy and stay consistent, and I think that will like produce some good results.
And I think that's so
A
important.
world of running existed before a lot of this stuff too, where people
Yeah.
ran really fast,
Yeah.
and Steph can tell you, so it's like, you don't always have to do the new shiny thing.
We didn't do bicarb.
I don't do bicarb.
Okay. For like all the high school kids, we're like, you should probably just sleep more. And maybe have like some protein and carbs after your run and not worry about bicarb.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Like, I have, you know, women who I coach who
Baking
are
soda, right?
50 years old. Yeah. And I'm like, no, you don't need to do bicarb.
Yeah.
You just need to strength train.
Yeah.
You know, like do the 1%
Doing the
thing.
basics first,
Yeah.
that's what I meant.
Yes.
Doing, maximizing the basics and then going
Yes.
possibly to the
Kip
next thing.
Yagon and Yakov, yes, maybe they need bicarb. Maybe they've maxed out the 90%.
Yeah.
But exactly.
Right. Well, and like, aside of that, like, I think that that's so important for someone in like where you're at in your career and what you do is important to say to just like the everyday runner, because more times than not, what we see or what I see is that it's like if they don't hit that qualifier, but they're like new to the marathon, or they don't hit that, you know, whatever that goal was, they look at it as a failure, and then they don't even celebrate that like accomplishment that they just did by running 15 minutes faster or whatever it might be. And it's like, it's a process, and you gotta understand the process and understand that like these are incremental benchmarks, and we can always build upon it, but we gotta set the foundation. It's huge.
I mean, just like the last, few weeks ago, I did the track fest, the 5K, and I've always like sold myself short with the whole like, oh, you're not fast, you're not a 5K runner. And just with the consistency of training, my first year as a pro, I shaved 12 seconds off my 5K PR and ran 15:01 on the track, which is like, for me, something I never thought was in the cards. So it just goes to show, like, yeah, sleep more, eat enough, get in the good training, and good things will happen. And like, celebrate the victories along the way, because once you get to this level of the sport, you're not going to see massive jumps like that at a certain point. So.
Awesome. Well, ladies, we're kind of rounding third in the episode, so we're going to bounce out for some Q&A. So real quick, does anybody have any questions?
For Steph, I heard that you just started Meridia. try out something for women that to help them OTQ. I was just wondering your thought process behind that and what kind of women you're looking for.
Sure, so I'll give, Colleen Quigley started that group, so I'll give her a plug. That was Maria. Tracksmith, we started a group called Stomata. And yeah, that's okay. And what, a little backstory on that, Stomata basically was a Greek woman who in the first modern games in 1896, she was denied access on the starting line to run the marathon with all the men. And so the next day she showed up by herself and she got a guard to sign a paper that says I'm starting. And then she basically ran the marathon distance by herself. She got to the stadium. They again denied her to get into the stadium, but she found someone to like let her in, sign her off, and they think she ran 5 hours and 30 minutes. And she's the first woman that we know to have like actually run the marathon distance.
How is that not more of a common story?
I know. That's what I think it was awesome. So to us, it was sort of this like, yeah, like tell me something I can't do and I'm gonna do it anyway. And so the idea behind it is the Olympic trial standard for 2028 is 2:37, and that window opens September 1st. And so what we wanted to do is Tracksmith wanted to launch a marathon women's team that is gonna go after that standard. And basically for the next 2.5 years, we will pick 2 races in each fall and each spring that we will target that OTQ attempt. And then the cool part is they sort of gave me the program to be the head of, and I guess the mom, the matriarch of it, and then I will pace the women at these OTQ attempts. So I will be going 2:37 pace, and then we'll have training camps throughout the year where we kind of come together and bond. And we just realized like a lot of these women are, they're full-time nurses or mom of 4 kids, and they're not professional athletes, but they still have these awesome dreams that they're chasing. And so we wanted to tell their stories along the way over the next couple of years. The toughest part right now is I have 125 applications that I have to read through and narrow down. And
What are you going to narrow it down to?
We're looking for a team of 20 to start with, and then the hope is that as women qualify, they basically graduate from the program, and then we can open up spots over the next couple of years. So let's say woman is like 6 or 7 minutes off, maybe in a year and a half, she's cut her time down, and then she can join us. So I'm really honored, and it's going to be a really cool adventure.
That is so awesome. Great question. Any other questions? No one? Awesome. Okay, over here. Tina's got one.
So first off, it's been amazing to hear from all of you, and all of you can chime in for this. I think as runners, whatever level you're on, you're always going to have a moment where you're like, why am I doing this? It's frustrating, you get injured, you run into some hiccups. What would you say has helped you push through those boundaries?
So, and again, we shut down the episode so anybody can answer. Now you can probably talk loud enough for them to hear.
Whoa.
I know, isn't that crazy?
I don't like the low. Our flight is winning.
Yeah.
I think for me, when I'm injured, it's like the most motivating thing ever to come back stronger the next time and figure out what went wrong and how we got to that point and try to take away some sort of lesson. So like when I'm actually in the injury, it sucks, but then like as soon as I sort of start to see the light at the end of the tunnel, it's like, okay, it's very motivating to see, how far behind you are in training. It's like, oh wow, I can't even do like 50% of what I was able to do, a year ago. So I really have a lot of work to put in, and that's very motivating to be like, okay, I can get back to that point. I just have to keep chipping away.
Yeah, I totally agree that like injuries suck so much, but it sometimes can be like the best motivation. Just to get back. Not even like an exact point in terms of like a time or whatever, but just like to get back to that feeling again. So yeah, I guess like for me too, it's kind of like I don't know what I would do if I did stop. Like I know that would feel worse than anything else to stop taking a chance on myself.
I don't know if mine is like injury necessarily, because I've been fortunate. My last major injury was like 2013, but then I did have 3 children, so you can call it injuries. Or not injuries. Sometimes I get injured, but yeah, you know, I'll kind of like tell a little bit of story. Last year, there was a lot of like transition going on in my professional running career. The group I was with made a lot of changes, and so I kind of found out that I was not going to be on that team. And the last 6 months of last year was really difficult and sort of it was very heavy mentally, and I realized how much that had an effect on me physically. And the same thing happened when I lost my mom a few years back. That's why a lot of people like thought I was retiring from the sport, because I thought my running was going downhill because I just hit like a breaking point. I was like, oh, maybe this is old age, this is what it was. But then the year that I was supposed to retire, that year went so well, and people were like, oh, do you think that it's going well because you like knew this was the end? And I was like, you know what, I actually think it was going well because I'm still good at running, and it was grief, and it was because I lost my mom, and I didn't realize how much of a emotional effect could have on me physically. And so I've always sort of realized, like, there's so much of this, wherever your disposition in life is, like mentally and emotionally, that's going to have a huge impact on you physically. And granted, for me, it hasn't manifested in injuries, but it sort of showed me, like last year, it was stealing the love and the joy of running, because I was like, why is this team cutting me? Why are all these things happening? And then I found myself this year being like, oh wow, if you just realize it's just you and it's your own running, and then no one can take that away from you, it feels really freeing. So yeah, I would just say that to kind of bring that back around, just realizing that sort of times or expectations, like nobody's putting that on you. No, in this room, nobody cares what you guys are running. No one actually cares what we're running. Like, I know we have sponsors, but at the end of the day, like, no one's losing sleep over it besides us, if we care that much. And I think that's like a really nice feeling, and you can almost be like, no one's putting pressure on you but yourself. And so realize that can be a positive if you spin it that way.
Yeah, and I would just take it back to like what Annie said earlier about enjoying the process, right? Because I think if you're so like outcome oriented in the sport, and it's like your validation comes from external factors like people's opinion or online or your times or your performances, it can be a really dark place when you do get injured, because all you feel like your self-worth and your value lies within your running. And for me, I found just like when injuries do happen, they definitely do, it's kind of inevitable in our sport. When they do happen, I just like rely on the other parts of me that I think are like important. Like, I feel like I'm a pretty good person. I try to be really close with my family and my friends and be a good support system for them when they need me. So yeah, when I'm down in the dumps, like I lean on them, and then I kind of turn to like, all right, what can I do with cross training to try and get back into shape and things like that. But yeah, I don't think it's like, you know, oh, the red button, this is a really bad thing. It's like, no, it's a time to like take a step back, reevaluate your situation and try to learn something from the injury, versus just like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing in the world, like everyone is disappointed in me, the brand is disappointed in me. Like, no one's disappointed in you, only you are disappointed in you. So yeah, I would just say like take a step back and just like gain some perspective a little bit, because it's just running. So yeah.
So what shoe are you both wearing?
I know, we didn't show you guys the shoes,
I'm
sorry.
wearing the Hyperion Elite PB4s. So not the newest, I think the newest, those up top, those beautiful babies up there, I'm not wearing those tomorrow, but I do like that. Yeah, I'm wearing the lower version.
They're not here, but Tracksmith, we've launched our first super shoe this spring. Excuse me, the Elliott Race.
Any other questions?
I have an observation. So I see everyone here, including myself, wearing these, circle back to the watches. We're all wearing our fancy watches.
I know,
You
dude,
didn't
I
even
saw
raise
it.
your hand up.
That's the
but
first
right
thing I
here,
noticed.
Fiona has a Timex watch on.
Oh,
Not everybody needs to be wearing fancy. You don't need to be doing that.
Well, I still race with time.
I know.
We go on the bottom.
This is what drives me crazy too. Like, what drives me crazy is when people are like, talking about like, they'll finish a race and they're like, oh, that course was short or long. It's like, are you gonna post an asterisk? Like, why would you get obsessed with what your watch says? Just wear a regular watch and go up there.
They have seconds faster than a mile at the race says though.
I mean, there's proof of that, but like.
They have wheeled the courses are not that short.
And then you just if you watch people races in marathons, nobody hits tangents. Nobody hits tangents. Period. Like even the people up front, like it's crazy.
Help me stay sane too, because that way, like, I don't need to know what pace I'm running.
Yeah.
Easy run, like, who cares?
Well, you need to also know what you're feeling
You want to say
inside.
that louder. Who cares what you're running an easy run?
Yeah, you need to like feel that. Yeah, these companies are making money off you. That's what they're doing.
Podcast got dark.
What's your guys' go-to pump-up jam before a race?
Oh,
yeah.
We were just trying to play those.
Yeah, I know. Something really hardcore.
I'll go right now. The reason that we were trying to have intro music, because right now my boys are playing, they just started their state baseball tonight, actually, in Arizona, and so, thank you. And little the kids have walk-up songs. So like, all they're doing, so I basically, my pump-up right now is whatever's on, like, the kids' walk-up.
So what is?
Oh,
you know?
okay, yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's, DJ Khaled, All I Do Is Win. Yeah, Kendrick Lamar.
Okay. Got some good beats.
Them Till I Collapse. They're very like, it's like a 12-second clip, so it has to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you guys?
I
Pump ups.
don't really listen to music before.
There you go.
I go and I do with all the New York Times games. I actually perform terribly before because I'm too nervous for the race.
She's secretly 50 years old. Walks and dogs and does New York Times. I love it.
She's a graphic designer.
Awesome.
If I am listening to music, it's usually something just a little more chill and upbeat. Like in college, I would listen to Unwritten, but I just
Oh, yeah.
My teammates are making fun of me a lot for that. Yeah.
What do you think, Tina? Does that wrap it up? Any final questions?
Any final questions?
Yeah, there we go.
I know at least some of you, maybe all of you, have run the course already on Saturday. What's your favorite part or least favorite part, or a part where you just like kick it in? Yeah.
My least favorite part was where Annie Rodenfels beat me last year. Off the curb. I don't know what it was. She made a right-hand turn and she was like, "Stay." I don't know what part that was. Towards the end, that was my least favorite part.
Yeah, my least favorite is that you can see the finish line and then you
For
turn to your
forever.
I've gotten that.
Yeah, it's okay, but it's good. I don't think change it. No, I'm just, we're being real. That's very gut check.
Yeah, it's for the veterans, so now you know.
We're gonna do this.
It
It does.
You guys are marathoners. You can't keep playing that.
Sure. Well, it sounds like you're gonna be soon.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's been a few years, so like memory's a little fuzzy, but I remember a nice like stretch of like smooth downhill running, like in the middle phase of the race, where it's not burning too bad.
I also want to know that Fiona made her professional debut at the first ever women's
Yeah.
That's pretty special.
That's awesome.
I think my, same as Steph's, was the part where you see the finish and you keep going. And it's also like, I remember doing it for the first time, same year that Fiona did it in 2022, I believe. And like, it's such a weird distance. You're like, maybe this is actually the finish.
Going straight Like, how much do you have left after you see it?
You have 800.
It's 800?
Once you see where you think, oh wait, I have to turn right, it's an 800 meters left.
Oh, okay.
So you
It's
have
enough.
half a mile
Like, you
left.
could get.
I watched it.
I ran it yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, they said the cobblestones are also
Yeah,
pretty tough.
I figured somebody would mention that, that's the worst part. Those are historic streets.
Like the Tour de France, they hit every surface.
Who's running it tomorrow?
Boom. We're gonna get some extra time studying. I hope I don't have to run with my daughter. I hope she just does the whole thing herself.
Wait, I'll do it with her.
Oh yeah, the little bit.
So cute.
A little bit. Huh? How far is the little Levy's loops?
It is actually 600 meters.
Okay.
So I made it a 6
She can do that.
0.6K.
Oh, perfect. That's smart. I got it.
I thought about it.
Yeah.
Wavy in the little.
One final call. Well, like I said, the episodes will air on Monday. Thank you guys for coming. This was awesome, and supporting these athletes and a great sport and great event. So it just continues to get better and better. So
Thank you.
any final words, Tina?
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone that came out tonight, but I personally want to thank all of our panelists. Let's give them a round of applause. I also want to extend, Stephanie Bruce is doing a pre-race shakeout run at 9 a.m. at the Hall of Fame Village Starbucks. So meet there, we'll be there at 9 a.m. But we're really excited about Saturday. If you are not racing, come out, watch the start, watch the finish. It's a lot of fun. But again, thank you ladies so much. We're just really, really
Yep.